Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, Brunning, Bruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Tuesday, week 4 of the NFL season is in the books. In fact, the whole month of September is now in the books, this being September 30th. Tomorrow starts October. We are inching closer to week 5, which almost seems unbelievable. We started the international games. This was the last weekend until Thanksgiving, where we have all 32 teams in action. That is just a gentle reminder. The bye weeks begin in week 5, which we will cover when we do previews on Thursday. We also had some major injuries, so we are just going to dive right in by going all the way back to the first game of week 4, which was Thursday Night Football. Saw the Seattle Seahawks.
Seems like so long ago.
It really does. I've slept since then. The Seattle Seahawks went to Arizona to battle the Cardinals. Both teams were 2-1 coming in. Both teams had only lost to the 49ers, kind of a crucial division game. Seahawks had a huge lead going into the fourth quarter. Cardinals came all the way back to tie it at 20, and then Seattle clipped them with a last-second field goal to win 23-20. Dennis, we're now 4 starts into the Sam Darnold era in Seattle. Had kind of a rougher week 1, only 5.4 points, but he has been steadily in the 16 to 18 point range since then, sitting at QB 21 currently. I think he's been fairly decent for them, but how do you feel about him as a starter?
Yeah, I like where he's going. He's high end QB2, I think, is where I would consider him, with some QB1 upside. The biggest opportunity is they don't have a lot of high-end passing weapons outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's actually been QB9 weeks 2 through 4.
QB 14.
Okay, it must have changed after my
I'm thinking they mixed in the Monday night games.
Yeah.
Hey, Bo Nix, I would say actually Nix and somebody else must have jumped. I think he's the only Monday night guy I see, but maybe Dak from Sunday night. Dak and Love probably jumped him from Sunday night. That would be a couple that bumped him back. But it says QB 14 weeks 2 through 4, averaging 16.9 points per game.
Yeah. So, there is some upside there. He'll give you the occasional run. And outside of Smith and Jigba, now it's who else is going to step up in the passing game. They've got Torrey Horton, who they like. They got A.J. Barner at tight end, Elijah Arroyo at tight end. I feel like I'm missing who their actual second starting
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp. I knew I was missing somebody. But he just feels like he's inconsistent now. And so now you just kind of have to roll with him as a plug-and-pray flex, I think, with Kupp. But I think Smith and Jigba is on a roll. And I like Darnold. He's going to get you, that high-end QB2. If you've got him in super flex, I think you're pretty comfortable there.
Meanwhile, for Arizona, it was the first start for Trey Benson, who's going to be the man now that James Conner is gone. Only 8 carries, turned it into 35 yards, over 4 yards a carry. We like that. Did catch 5 passes, only 19 yards. Unfortunately for him, DeMarcado, the guy they used when they were coming from behind, and he actually ends up catching a touchdown. But How did you feel about Trey Benson's first start?
I wasn't thrilled with just 8 carries, but I did like the 5 targets. So, he had 13 opportunities. Though, like you said, it was DeMarcado that got the touchdown. Benson had outsnapped DeMarcado 55 to 39%. But the Cards were very pass heavy. They only ran the ball 17 times, 41 pass attempts. I don't think it was an ideal kind of game for Benson, or it wouldn't have been even if James Conner was there when you only run the ball 17 times. I think Benson's going to be just fine. The offense needs to have balance. And it seemed like they were kind of the Cards felt like they had to throw the ball, and whether that's because they didn't have Conner or they felt like, well, we're down far enough, we need to throw the ball more. Let's face it, we've been, there's been no love for Kyler Murray from this show, and I just don't think you're going to win consistently with him throwing the ball 41 times.
Amen to that. We had our first international game in Ireland, Pittsburgh getting the 24-21 victory over the Minnesota Vikings. The game was so exciting. I'm going to be asking you questions about some backup running backs. First, for the Vikings, Xavier Scott. We know Jordan Mason going to get a bulk of the carries. Was super good in week 3. Not as good against the Steelers, but I was interested. Xavier Scott in his second game, kind of in this reserve role, really seemed to pick up in the receiving game, had 8 targets, caught 6 passes for 43 yards and a touchdown. Is there any interest, a spark of interest for you in picking up Scott?
If you pick up Scott, you're doing it with the expectation that when Aaron Jones gets healthy again, Scott goes back to the RB3 role. Scott was a wide receiver to start college. He's a good pass catcher. He's got good size. I think he's 6'1", 214 or something. So he does have some ability and some prototypical size. Whether he can develop a la Tyrone Tracy or Tony Pollard as a running back, I think we got to wait and see. I don't think Aaron Jones is – he's part of the not for long league. He's getting up there. They like him. He's a good, I would dare say, a great locker room guy, great teammate, hard worker, going to do all the right things. But the reality is he's a 30-year-old running back that's, 5'9", 205. So it's not like he possesses that, Derrick Henry kind of size. But he has the ability to be a thorn in the side, complementary piece, probably for another couple years, does Aaron Jones, and that may hold back Xavier Scott. And a lot of it, I think, is going to depend on the frequently injured Jordan Mason. That was part of the knock on him in San Francisco. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay productive? And if he stumbles a little bit, we may very well end up with a 3-headed monster in Minnesota.
Meanwhile, Jaylen Warren ended up being a scratch on Sunday, gave Kenneth Gainwell the lead role, and he made the most of it. Turned 19 carries into 99 yards and 2 touchdowns, also caught 6 passes for 35 yards. I had thought he was more efficient and making more of his touches in the previous couple of games. Warren still hasn't cracked 50 yards rushing in any of the 3 that he started, and has been sub 4 yards per carry in every game he's been a part of. Do you think seeing this, we could see some more touches for Gainwell?
I certainly think we can. And, Aaron Rodgers is going to lean toward whichever running back is going to give him the best protection. Gainwell is very well versed. Physically, Gainwell and Warren are basically the same guy. Metric-wise, they're basically the same guy. Gainwell was a little faster coming out of college at 4.47 40 versus 4.55 for Warren, but Warren had the better 10-yard split at 1.56 versus 1.62. And size-wise, they're both 5'8" and change, both of them around a little over 200 pounds. And they both can catch the ball well. So they're not complementary backs. They're clones. And it'll come down to whichever one I think executes best and how long it takes Caleb Johnson to start to eat into opportunities as the quote unquote big back. But yeah, I agree with you. Gainwell looked very efficient. I think part of the knock on him has been that he's never been able to get a job and hold it, whether it's been through poor performance or not being able to stay healthy because he is a smaller back. Maybe this is his year. We've seen it. We've seen the pendulum swing back a little more with guys like Kyron Williams that are, those 5'9", 200-pounders that are holding up better, whether it's through increased nutrition and fitness or the way the offenses are being ran that allows them to not take kind of the same beatings that they used to have to take. But I would expect they're going to play the hot hand once Warren gets healthy.
Moving on, the Commanders went to Atlanta, and the Falcons got the 34-27 victory. And Dennis, Luke McCaffrey, second consecutive week, he saw 3 targets. Second consecutive week, he got a receiving touchdown. Are you buying into it at all, or you think it's just a function of Terry McLaurin being out?
Well, Jalen Lane and Chris Moore also got 3 targets each this week. If one of them had gotten the touchdown, we'd be talking about them. I think he has the opportunity to earn that third wide receiver role and keep it once McLaurin comes back. Right now, with McLaurin out, it's Debo, and then somebody has to step up. And they're kind of cycling through and seeing who's going to make a play. And it's been McCaffrey making the plays in the end zone. But Zach Ertz has been the actual second, receiving target on this team. And then Jeremy McNichols is the running back that they like in the receiving role. But with Marcus Mariota, he's running. He isn't the passer, I think, that Jaden Daniels is. So he runs a little bit more, and they're leaning a little heavier on the running game as well. I like McCaffrey as a dynasty stash. I don't know. I'm not sold on him as a redraft playable player outside of bye weeks.
On the other side, has there ever been a team that's more hot and cold than the Atlanta Falcons?
Not this year. I mean, they went from, polar frigid last week to smoking hot this week. It's going to be a wild ride while Michael Penix settles in and gets comfortable being an NFL quarterback. He throws a beautiful ball, and sometimes he throws it in the wrong direction. He's got weapons with Pitts and Drake London. God, I was slipping. And Bijan Robinson gets a ton of passing down work out of the backfield.
I think the one that scares me the most is Tyler Algier, because he's a decent deep league flex as long as the Falcons are winning.
Correct.
But if they are losing, you are screwed.
Well, the Falcons have the 7th most yards in the league, but they've put up the 25th most points, and they have the 26th lowest red zone conversion rate. So really, you have to, if you're going to play Algier, you've got to feel good about what the opponent's going to give them. If it's somebody that's got a stingy defense, you probably aren't going to want to play Algier.
But I don't even know if you can go totally by that, because I thought Algier would have been a great play last week when they were playing Carolina. I thought Algier and Bijan would be killer, whereas when they played Minnesota, I thought that would have been rough. And both running backs were good against Minnesota, and Bijan was okay, and Algier was like 7 carries for a yard or something against Carolina. It's just, I think Atlanta is going to be a team where some weeks you're happy you played them and some weeks you are on the regret train.
Yeah, they're shaping up to be that team that, could propel a 6 seed to the championship game or could cost the number 1 seed the championship game.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Saints went to Buffalo. The Bills got the 31-19 victory. Bills moved to 4-0. Saints to 0-4. Not a lot to say about the Bills. You're starting Josh Allen, James Cook, and you feel good about it. You're probably starting Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Dalton Kincaid, and sometimes you feel good about it. For the Saints, we saw Kendre Miller come out of the doghouse when they got rid of Dennis Allen, but we've seen him get a little bit of an uptick of usage game by game. This week, 11 carries to 15 for Kamara, had 65 yards and a touchdown. Are you feeling a little bit better about him carving out a role?
Yeah, it seems like they're embracing the fact that Alvin Kamara is probably their best player. And he's also pushing 30 years old. And there's, he's a lot of his touches have been receptions. He still has taken on a significant workload throughout his career. Kendre Miller is shaping up to be a poor man's Tyler Algier. He's going to be that guy that lets Kamara, he splits the touches, the grinded out touches with Kamara, and then lets Kamara get, 8 or 10 pass targets. Well, he doesn't really get any passing down work. And some weeks it's going to be good, and other weeks it's going to be glad he's on your bench.
Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns went to Detroit. The Lions win going away 34-10. Detroit, another team, pretty set. They're back to being the good old Detroit that we loved from last year. Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery, right. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. You're probably starting all of them. Sometimes you feel great about it. Sometimes you feel good about it. Sometimes you started David Montgomery and he got 9 carries and only 12 yards. Thank you, Browns. Cleveland, however, 1-3. They did have that nice surprise win over the Packers, but they've been doing it because their defense has been pretty solid. Their offense still continues to be kind of a slog. I don't think they've scored more than 13 points in any of their 4 games. Flacco not doing a whole lot. I had wondered if they were going to start to look at Gabriel. Now the rumblings are coming out that Gabriel may indeed be the starter on Sunday. Do you like the potential of the Browns exploring what they have in their young quarterbacks?
I have heard a couple different things that have said the Browns that Stefanski has said Gabriel is going to start, but I haven't seen any confirmation that from the guys you want to see it from, Schefter.
What I saw the latest today, I'm trying to think. I think they posted it in our Discord. Was one of the actual reporters saying that there are some rumblings that they're considering it, and I don't know if it's, having your first start be on the road in London. I know they're the home team, but in London might be a little rough. I think we're getting closer to the Dillon Gabriel era, no matter what.
I think you've got to play him. I mean, you're not getting what you want out of Flacco. And to be honest with that defense, they don't need a lot out of Flacco. Cedric Tillman's banged up now. It looks like he's going to miss some time.
He did go on IR today.
Isaiah Bond was wide receiver 37 this week. He only had 1 target in the first half. In the second half with Tillman out, he had 5 targets. So that bodes well. He may be just the shot in the arm that offense needs. That they're going to end up, it's going to be Judy, Njoku, Fannin, and then Quinshon Judkins looked like a beast this weekend. He's out there running hard, working hard. I think that, like, given that you're 1-3 with that defense, I mean, what do you got to lose?
Yeah,
Gabriel.
I just wonder whether I mean, I guess London wouldn't be terrible. I just
It's a
don't know.
neutral site game.
Eh,
And let's face it, Dylan started 64 games in college. It isn't like, he's not Anthony Richardson from that perspective. It's not Mitch Trubisky from that perspective.
Meanwhile, the Panthers went to New England. The Patriots blew them up 42-13. Dennis, what do we make of the Panthers? They're 1-3. Last week, a 30-0 victory, but I noted that statistically it didn't look that great. They just seemed completely out of it, down 28-6 at the half. They ended up putting Andy Dalton in late. I don't think they're probably going to go away from Young, but what do you make of Carolina?
Young has been very inconsistent. He needs to kind of figure out his way. Chuba Hubbard 10 for 49. That seems good, but they were down so far. It just didn't seem to matter. I like Bryce Young, but we've got to get more. Tommy Tremble had 8 targets. Is that really, and Mitchell Evans, the other tight end, had 4 targets. James Mitchell had 2 targets. So you got 14 targets going to the tight ends there.
I think Mitchell Evans came in late. They must have gone to mostly the second team because Trevor Etienne got a lot of carries and Dowdle got a lot of carries. I think they were just down so much that they went to backups in a lot of areas. Meanwhile, for New England, we've wondered, was somebody going to emerge? I thought it would be Stephon Diggs. It might make sense now that we've hit week 4 with him coming back from kind of a serious injury that he might be ready to take that step forward. 7 targets, by far the most of any of the pass catchers. The next closest to him was Kayshon Boutte, who had 3. Caught 6 for 101. Do you think this could be kind of a coming out party for him as a premier target in New England?
Yeah, I think, it's ramped up. He played 56% of the snaps week 1, 52% week 2, 53% week 3. He was at 63% this week. So he's trending in that I'm getting healthier. I'm in football shape. I would be very surprised if he wasn't 75% or higher next week. So, I think when we look at, as much as I love Kayshon Boutte, when we look at the Patriots receiving core, I don't think any of us would argue that Stephon Diggs is not the best wide receiver in New England.
Yeah, and hopefully a good sign because I have some shares that I would like to see mature. One of the more surprising games on Sunday, the Chargers went to New York and came up short. The Giants getting the 21-18 victory. The Chargers lines beat up. That could be a factor, but one guy who continues to be a stud is Quentin Johnston, who we probably wouldn't have figured that preseason. He is wide receiver 4 through 4 weeks, averaging almost 20 points a game. So I have to ask, is he the Chargers receiver you want to roster now?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I'm like in disbelief, it's almost like him and Ladd McConkey, their hands have a Freaky Friday experience going on, and now all of a sudden McConkey can't catch and Johnston catches everything.
I know McConkey 6 targets, only 1 reception for 11 yards, where there are many fantasy lineups.
Yeah, here's my biggest concern though. They lost Rashawn Slater in preseason. Now they just lost Joe Alt. That offensive line.
I think they lost another guy they said in the middle too. I didn't see the game, but it didn't sound good.
They're gonna have to figure that out. It's losing 2 first-round tackles is not great. And Hampton, 12 for 128 with the 54-yard run, looked fantastic. He got all the carries. They didn't give anybody else a carry.
So Joe Alt is now listed as doubtful, has a high ankle sprain. Mekhi Becton, questionable. That's the other one I was thinking of, their guard, their big free agent acquisition. So you're right.
Yeah.
Not good for – I mean, it's good for me because I'm a Broncos fan, but not good for Justin Herbert.
I think the NFL, we see it all the time, and I'll probably talk about it ad nauseum when we get to the Cincinnati game. But a couple, 3 years ago, we talked about the importance of having a competent backup quarterback. Now I think it's, we've said if we were building a team, we're going to build it from the inside out. Let me get the defensive line, the offensive line locked down. And then when I add those specialty pieces, we got something going. Teams have to, they should have, if you can put 16 guys on your practice squad, 8 of them should be offensive linemen. I mean,
I think a lot of teams do have, they keep 8 to 10 or 11 on the regular roster. And then, I think Denver kept 9 and has 4 or 5 on the practice squad. It's just, are they good?
But you got to develop them. Keep them there and just keep working them and keep cycling through. But
I mean, most teams can't even find 5 that are good enough to start. So
it's tough.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for the Giants, they do lose Malik Neighbors. He tore his ACL. He is out for the year. Whether your dynasty team, I felt bad for you. Whether many of my dynasty teams that I have him on. Jackson Dart, though, 13 of 20, 111 yards and a touchdown. Doesn't blow you away, but not bad. Also added 54 yards and a touchdown rushing on 10 carries. Cam Scatterbo put up together another good game. What did you think of Dart in his first start?
He showed some moxie. Only 111 yards passing on 20 pass attempts. Would you like to see a little more volume? Yeah. But, I mean, he ran the ball 10 times for 54 and a touchdown there. So there's going to be some growing pains, and especially now with Neighbors out, they don't have that bona fide stud. We'll probably see a resurgence of Darius Slayton. Wan'Dale Robinson has been playing great. Maybe Jalen Hyatt actually returns his second-round draft capital now. Gets an opportunity to do that. They're going to grind it with Cam Scatterbo. He didn't have a very efficient day, 25 carries for 79 yards, but he's going to go in there and he's a battling pit bull. He's going to go in there and fight somebody. I like Dart. I want to see him. It was the right move. You know what you're getting out of Russ and Jameis. And let's face it, you might as well go to the young guy there. I just would like to see more than 20 pass attempts for 111 yards. I will say I appreciate after losing Neighbors in the Dynasty League that, Jacob Niner sent me a nice trade offer. He offered to take the injured Malik Neighbors off my hand for the Sterling, Jordan Addison.
Yeah. Who has no quarterback. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles went to Tampa Bay, got the 31-25 victory. Dennis, are we just at the point where rostering and playing an Eagles wide receiver is going to be a roller coaster of frustration? A.J. Brown got 9 targets, but only caught 2 for 7. Devonta Smith only 2 targets, but caught both of his for 29. But it just feels like it is so hard to figure out this passing game.
I mean, I got to be honest, it's Justin Fields territory with the passing game. He 15 of 24 for 130. He did get the 2 touchdowns to Goddard. And he ran the ball for 62 yards, but it's not good if you're rostering A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And figuring out, who you should play amongst them, it's going to be eternally frustrating. If they are if they're ahead, they're not going to throw the ball. They only have one game with more than 24 pass attempts in the first 4 weeks. They're 30th in the league in yards per game, 31st in pass yards. They're like the only team with fewer pass yards than them is the woeful Tennessee Titans.
Which we'll get to in a minute. But for Tampa Bay, Chris Godwin came back, saw 10 targets, so they targeted him a lot. Only 3 receptions for 26 yards as he's kind of getting back in there. I think the targets are a good sign, but how did you feel about Godwin's return?
He played 81% of the snaps. That was second behind Emeka Egbuka. The 10 targets tied Ibuka's. I mean, Egbuka only caught one more pass than Godwin. He just happened to have a 77-yarder and a touchdown there thrown in. I think he's going to be
not the most efficient target to reception day for any of the pass catchers.
Bucky Irving was 5 for 5.
Okay, for any of the receivers.
I think it's, through the first 3 weeks, it was Egbuka and Evans, and that was great. Evans is out now for a few weeks. It's going to be Egbuka and it's going to be Godwin. That's what you want. I'm not going to fret yet. Once Evans gets healthy, and if Godwin and Egbuka are both still healthy, then I think from a fantasy standpoint, we're going to be a little bit nervous. You don't know where things are going to go. It feels like Egbuka may be earning the number 1 job there.
Yeah.
And so you probably, I would feel once all 3 are back on the field, I'm probably going to feel the best about Egbuka, but any given week, it could be any one of the 3.
Next up, a battle of winless teams. The Houston Texans hosted the Tennessee Titans and smoked them 26-0. In a poetic post-game press conference, Cam Ward was asked how the Titans are, and he said if he was keeping it real or honest, although he used a phraseology I've never heard. If we keeping it a buck, I assume he means real. We ass. I thought that was an apt assessment of the Titans. Do you also think the Titans be ass?
Yeah, they are. And, would I have liked it better if he had said because he's the quarterback. He's the one who went 10 for 26 for 108 yards and a touchdown, an interception.
Brian Callahan has to be the highest odds for first coach fired right now. I don't think he's making it to Halloween the way they're going.
They're just not getting it done, and they changed play callers, and that didn't do any good. And
arguably, they were worse.
Yeah, but I don't know, like changing coaches. It's just going to be a Caleb Williams situation.
Yeah,
for the rest of the year.
Well, and it's weird. They got weapons, but they don't really I've never seen somebody go from a player I thought was decent to the dust that you scrape off your shoe faster than Tyler Lockett going to Tennessee. But it's just, meanwhile, Houston, I know you're going to be excited. I think we're trending toward Woody Marks being running back 1. I also could not help but laugh that a team that has fundamentally no offensive line traded a starting offensive lineman in season to freaking Cleveland. Houston, we have a problem.
So they said Ariante Esseri, or however you pronounce his name, has been playing great, and he plays the same position as Cam Robinson, and so they felt like they could move on from him.
I feel like I should be able to stay up until 11 and get up at 5 and be just fine, but it doesn't work out for me.
Well, you can choose to be fine. You'll just be sleepy. They only gave up 2 sacks. Houston did, so that was a plus.
Tennessee though.
But they only threw the ball 28 times, Now, it was pretty efficient day for CJ Stroud, 22 of 28, 233 and 2. And you're right, it was against Tennessee. But Jo'quavious Marks seems to be staking his claim to the number one job. Woody put up 17 for 69 and a touchdown with 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. So,
yeah, I like him. I think he looked good.
RB6 on the week. He's got feature back size. He's a great pass catcher. That was kind of his bread and butter coming into the league. There was some concerns that he maybe wasn't a great runner, but he was a very good pass catcher. So I think that, Nick Chubb, God bless him. Thank you for your service. But he doesn't have any burst. He's in the Kareem Hunt phase of his career right now, without the pass catching chops of Kareem Hunt.
The Los Angeles Rams hosted the Indianapolis Colts, got the 27-20 victory. A little bit of the magic coming off for Daniel Jones, threw 2 interceptions, only 1 touchdown, couldn't run for much. I would put more of this loss on Adonai Mitchell, who is lucky he didn't get left behind in Los Angeles after laying the ball on the ground before crossing the goal line and then committing a holding penalty that wiped out a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. But do you think this was a little bit of a hiccup for Daniel Jones against a good team, or maybe a worrying sign?
No, I think it was a hiccup. When you take 14 points off the board because of a couple boneheaded plays by a guy, you feel bad for Adonai Mitchell. Like when he dropped that ball, it wasn't like he was like showboating or anything. It just slipped, and he was like, he bobbled it.
But he was trying to make a move to show the ball to people, so I would consider that. Cross the fucking goal line first, guys.
It's like my grandpa used to say, some days you get the bear, some days the bear gets you. And this weekend, the bear got Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah. Who was only really getting a chance because Alec Pierce was out injured.
I know. If Pierce is back from the concussion, who knows? Mitchell will be back to wide receiver 4. Pittman had a decent game. Mitchell had a great game aside from those 2 boneheaded plays. Josh Downs was efficient, 4 of 5, just didn't get many yards. Tyler Warren, 5 of 6 for 70. That's, you'll
also
take
got
that
a rushing
from your tight end,
touchdown, which was fun.
Yeah, you'll take that from your tight end every week. So, there isn't an RB2 in Indianapolis. It seems like they're not using DJ Giddens. They're not using Tyler Goodson.
RB2 is Tyler Warren and DJ and Daniel Jones.
Yeah. So, Taylor is getting lots of volume. What did he have? 5 targets himself with 17 carries. So, I think Jones is going to be fine. But, to be fair, when you sign up for the Daniel Jones experience, you're going to have some games. Now, the second interception went off the hands of somebody, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he was under pressure at the highest rate this season in this game. And per Next Gen Stats, it was odd. He was under pressure for 48.6% of his dropbacks. But both of the interceptions came when he wasn't under pressure. And the interceptions were on 2 of his 3 deepest throws of the game.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Rams moved to 3-1. Could have been 4-0 if they could block on special teams. Do you think they might be one of the best teams in the NFC?
Yeah, they're a team that is, at this point, kind of veteran-oriented. You've got Stafford. Kyron Williams has been around a few seasons now. Puka, he's in his 3rd year?
Yeah, 3rd year.
And is just a beast. Devontae Adams is an end zone he's probably the best. Unfortunately for Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams is probably going to score 15 touchdowns, and Puka is going to probably get 3. But Puka is going to, if he keeps having these 15 target, 13 catch days, I think he'll keep taking that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it matters. He's still wide receiver 1, averaging 27.4 points per game.
Blake Corum, I think a little of the bloom came off the rose. He only had 2.3 yards per carry. But he did have 9 carries to Williams' 13. And he had 4 targets, and Williams also had 4 targets. But so they're splitting. They look like they're splitting at about 60-40, which honestly is a little unusual for a Sean McVay running back situation. So that means Corum is doing good stuff. They like him because they're giving him the opportunities.
Kyron also lost a fumble, so that might have been a factor. The other NFC West team that's near the top of the 49ers came in 3-0, hosted the Jaguars. Jaguars get the 26-21 victory. Dennis, 3-1 for the Jaguars. They're another team. They could be 4-0 were it not for kind of a little bit of a lapse against Jake Browning and the Bengals, which looks worse each week that Jake Browning makes a subsequent start. But when you look at the box score, not particularly impressive. They haven't really gotten Brian Thomas going that well. Trevor Lawrence has just been okay. Their defense has been pretty solid. What do you make of the Jaguars?
So right now, it seems like they're kind of running the offense through Travis Etienne, and it's being successful. We saw last year with Liam Cohen that he really ran the Bucky Irving show in Tampa. I think there's still chemistry brewing with Brian Thomas, with Travis Hunter. And after last week, I think there were a lot of people were like, oh, this is Parker Washington. He's overtaking Travis Hunter, but Washington had 2 targets. So Brenton Strange is being fairly consistent at the tight end position. Hunter Long kind of sniped a TD from, pick your receiver that you would rather have the touchdown than Hunter Long. There's probably 3 or 4 of them. But I mean, Lawrence still only threw for 174 yards, but he didn't throw an interception. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt while they keep growing in the Liam Cohen offense.
It's just weird to have a 3-1 team where you only really have one player that you probably feel good about starting every week for fantasy. But welcome to 2020.
You know what they always say in the work environment, that it's the whole is better than the sum of its parts. So
meanwhile, for the 49ers, do you think it's just getting to be a case of too many injuries? I mean, Christian McCaffrey was the guy we worried about most coming into the season, and he seems by far the healthiest. Purdy and Pearsall are questionable again. It looks like Jennings likely to be downgraded to doubtful. Their defense getting beat up and losing pieces is just too much.
Sky Moore time, baby. Sky Moore time.
Don't say hurtful things.
I think so, and if Purdy's out this week, they'll go back to Mac Jones, which
he's banged up too.
Yeah, but he's not as banged up as Purdy is. McCaffrey is not being efficient on the ground at only 2.9 yards per carry. And I'm not sure Jacksonville's defense is that good. But he had 11 targets through the air, 92 yards and a touchdown. So, they have a lot of guys. I'll give them that. But when you're down Brandon Ayuk and Pearsall's banged up and Kittle is out, Nick Bosa is out, at some point, and I think if you look around the NFL, it ultimately is a case of who's the healthiest, best team left when you get to the playoffs. And in the NFC West right now, it looks like the Rams.
Marquee matchup of the late window was Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. Did not turn out to be that marquee because, Cam Ward may have coined the "we ass," but I think the Ravens defense is certainly trying to carry that. They have allowed 37 or more points in 3 of their 4 games. The only one that didn't get there was the Browns, who I guess I was wrong. The Browns' high score for the season was 17 against the Ravens. I just looked it up. But the Ravens, their offense hasn't looked good the last couple of weeks, really, either, or consistent. They weren't running at a very great clip, and Lamar Jackson now is injured, and they say may miss several weeks. Time to hit the panic button for the Ravens, who are 1-3 and staring down the Texans this week.
The Texans are a winnable game, even with Cooper Rush. But, Derrick Henry is not, part of their methodology is to grind Derrick Henry, 20 to 25 carries. And then when you get to the second half with him, he's breaking some big plays. And because you're leaning into stopping Derrick Henry, that opens up opportunities for Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews. But when they're not able to run Henry, I mean, he led the team in carries this week, but only had 42 yards. It's when they don't have that balance to offset their, I don't know, mediocre is not the word I want to use for Lamar's passing, because it doesn't feel right, because he can be very, very efficient in the passing game. But everything has to be clicking for that to happen. And then I think they were down 7 starters on defense by the time the game ended. And
and a lot of them are not coming back this season.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a challenging rest of the year for Baltimore.
Meanwhile, for Kansas City, we've been saying, maybe we needed to wait until we got to see Worthy come back and Rice come back. Worthy came back, and boy, did the pass offense take off. 270 yards, 4 passing touchdowns for Mahomes. They didn't even really need the running game, which is good because Worthy was also their leading rusher because they have 2 stone cold stiffs behind Patrick Mahomes. But is this a sign of things to come for Kansas City?
Yeah, they are going to be pass heavy. That's what they have to do, unless Rashard Smith can, add some sizzle to the running game. I mean, there's no explosiveness with Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco in the run game. It's just not there. Their explosiveness is going to come from Xavier Worthy or, Marquise Brown, running those at Tyquan Thornton, running the end around that. And ultimately, I don't think that is a run game strategy that you can hang your hat on. It's going to give you splash play here or there, but it's not something you can, I think, count on to give you big plays every week. So maybe, when Rice gets back, maybe now with Worthy back, the passing game will pick up and that will open up the run lanes for Isaiah Pacheco or Hunt or Smith. We'll have to kind of wait and see, but I would expect them to have the pass heaviest run pass ratio in the league.
Meanwhile, Chicago went to the Las Vegas Raiders and pulled out the improbable 25-24 victory. Not a great day for Chicago's offense, but Rome Odunze just keeps on rolling on. He is wide receiver 3 on the season. He's had at least 15.2 points in every game, averaging almost 20 points per game. What do you like about Odunze?
He's good. Yeah. That makes it easy.
He seems to be, we wondered preseason who was going to emerge as the alpha receiver for Chicago. It seems like he's the guy.
It does. And, when we look at what Ben Johnson did in Detroit, it seems that Odunze doesn't play the position that was the alpha in Detroit, a la Amon-Ra St. Brown. That seemed more like DJ Moore or Luther Burden. But the two of them are just not really converting consistently the way Odunze is. Odunze is a big guy. What is he? Is he 6'1" or 6'3"? 210 pounds, 215 pounder. And
he is 6'3", 214.
And so he's able to use that size. He's got enough speed. He can get some separation. Oddly enough, with Colson Loveland out, Cole Kmet led the team with 9 targets. He didn't turn them into a lot of points, but he seemed to provide a safety net for Caleb Williams. The overall passing game production wasn't great, 212 yards on 37 pass attempts, but they got it done when they needed. The running game didn't really provide much, and so they had to get it done through the air.
Meanwhile, for the Raiders, we have not seen a ton out of Janty. Well, he got unleashed in week 4, 21 carries, 138 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Also had 2 receptions that were both touchdowns. Was this the game we needed to see from Ashton Janty?
It certainly was. It wasn't enough to propel me to victory against you in the roundtable.
I still can't believe. Oh, redraft, I actually think my team did better. I can't believe I won either of those games, though, to be honest.
No, watching Janty play, he showed the trademark contact balance that, we all have come to know and love from him. He showed burst. He was able to, break off a long touchdown. Looks very comfortable in the passing game. And so, but in Chicago's defense also gave up 62 yards on 4 carries to Raheem Mostert. So it isn't like the run defense was stellar. And as much as I like Raheem Mostert, I dare say Ashton Janty is the better running back.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they had Mostert active and gave him that much activity after seeming to prefer Zamir White for 2 weeks. But much like the rest of us, they've figured out that Zamir White ain't where it's at. Probably the game of the day was Sunday Night Football, a 40-40 tie between the Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. We had seen a lot of people anointing the Green Bay Packers as being the best team in the league after a week 1 victory and the trade for Micah Parsons. They have now lost to the Cleveland Browns and tied with a Dallas Cowboys team that was missing both Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. Is it time to reevaluate the Packers?
It certainly seems like they're struggling winning winnable games. From a fantasy perspective, you love what Jordan Love did. He 43 pass attempts, 337 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He added 28 on the ground.
Look, Dallas watched the Ravens defense and said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. Josh Jacobs, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also caught 4 passes for 71. Jacobs is just the last, since he got to Green Bay, he has done nothing but show the Raiders that, they were wrong. And now, don't get me wrong, I love Ashton Janty, but in a dynasty, I've obviously taken Janty over Jacobs, but Jacobs has been very good since he got to Green Bay. Romeo Doubs, it hurts that he got 3 touchdowns, because talk about unrealistic expectations for the rest of the season. Holy crap.
Are you telling me he's not going to be the touchdown magnet every week?
No, he may very well be.
I'm with you. They spread the ball around. That was the flukiest thing.
We'll probably have several weeks without passing touchdowns. No,
he couldn't have shared one of those with Tucker Kraft. Romeo Doubs is just selfish, apparently.
He is. I mean, well, if you look back at last year, he's selfish enough that one week they sat him and said, "Look, you're getting a timeout."
Meanwhile, for Dallas, George Pickens going to Dallas seems to have revitalized his career. Week 1 was just okay, but he's had at least 17.8 points in each of the last 3 games, sitting as wide receiver 6. He really picked up the slack and looked great against the Packers on Sunday night. Are you liking what you're seeing from George Pickens?
Yeah, so far. But I mean, if you look back over the course of his career, his rookie year, he had 2 wide receiver 1 games and 3 wide receiver 2 games. He was wide receiver 40. He made his hay on like making some fantastic plays, but he didn't really back it up. His second season, he had 4 wide receiver 1 games and 3 wide receiver 2 games. He was only wide receiver 30, wide receiver 35 in points per game. Last year, 2 wide receiver 1 games, 5 wide receiver 2 games, was wide receiver 42. And so this year, I think we expected more of the same, that wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 2, playing across from CeeDee Lamb. With Lamb out, the question is going to be, is he the next Amari Cooper? That's my question. Are we going to see games like this? And then
American hero, Amari Cooper.
And then next week, we're going to see him have, 4 targets for 1 catch and 12 yards, and sulking on the sideline.
Yeah, I do. Maybe he needed a change of scenery to be more in it, but the mental thing has always been more of a question for me with Pickens than his skills. So I think you do raise a good point, but it seems like, I was most excited when they kept cutting to Dallas' sideline, how excited CeeDee Lamb was for all of his fellow receivers, and he was the first one to run up and give them a hug and stuff. And I think he has a great attitude and work ethic, and has since he's been there. Maybe that ends up being a better environment, because from what we've seen, like Pickens got drafted, Deontay Johnson has not been a peach anywhere he's gone outside of Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool, not a peach anywhere he's gone. So maybe Pickens wasn't in a spectacular environment, and being, people always say a lot of complimentary things about Dak, and I think Jake Ferguson seems like a pretty stand-up guy, and CD, maybe it is a better environment for him, and that is something that he needed. I'm not sure he would have gotten like the warm encouragement he needed from Aaron Rodgers, so maybe this was what he needed.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Monday night had a double header. The earlier of the games by an hour was the other battle of winless teams. The Jets went to Miami, and the Dolphins got the 27-21 victory. Honestly, Dennis, you watched a lot more of this game than I did, both because I was wedded to watching the Broncos and also because the Dolphins uniforms made me blind. But
I thought they were great.
I know. A lot of people did apparently like that. I couldn't get past that. But the Jets seemed like, from the text messages you sent me, some of Justin Fields' plays almost made you go blind. I do appreciate that Garrett Wilson is getting enough volume to be wide receiver 5 on the season. Breece Hall, getting touches, doing okay. But what do you make of this Jets offense?
At times, man, it looked like a real mess. And 3 turnovers were tough for them to overcome. They have 7 turnovers on the year. And honestly, they could have won this game. I felt like the touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson that had a penalty called for offensive pass interference, that seemed pretty ticky-tacky, and it was a phenomenal catch. The touchdown pass he did get credit for was an even better catch. Breece Hall, he's getting volume in the run game and the passing game. Mason Taylor put up a great game at the tight end position. There is nobody else in the run in the passing game, receiving game that you want to go with. I mean, 27 pass attempts for Fields, 226 yards. He completed 20 of 27 passes. He can be efficient. Now, some of those passes looked bad. Some of the incompletions were bad. He ran the ball for 81 yards and a touchdown, a long touchdown that was kind of oh, I screwed this up. Let me see what I can do. Oh my God, I'm in the end zone. It was the worst of and the best of Justin Fields all in one play. But as long as he can keep the connection going with Garrett Wilson, it's a narrow funnel there. It's Wilson, it's Hall. It looks like Braylon Allen's going to be out.
Yeah, he's going to IR. So
yeah, he picked up a knee injury. And while Isaiah Davis is okay, I think this is going to be more of a Breece Hall.
I was encouraged by Mason Taylor. If they can get him going, I think that would help at least give them a third option.
Yeah, it's just they just don't have anybody else in the passing game with Lazard, Reynolds.
I was going to say the corpse of Lazard and Reynolds, Tyler Johnson. So when is a win a loss? Well, I guess it's when you're the Miami Dolphins. They finally got a win, which is good. But Tyreek Hill, after catching 6 passes for 67 yards, got pulled down in a truly gruesome injury, dislocated his knee, tore all the ligaments in it. They air casted him, took him straight to the hospital. He had surgery today. So he is done. It was probably nice to see Waller healthy enough to get out there. Only caught 3 passes, but 2 of them are for touchdowns. But what do the Dolphins do now without Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, it feels like the funnel is going to narrow a bit. It'll be Devin Achane and Jalen Waddle. And then now that he's back, Darren Waller. I think with Achane's capacity in the passing game, while he only had 2 targets in this game, Ollie Gordon, honestly, watching Gordon play last night, I was surprised to look at the stat sheet and see only 10 yards on 6 carries. It sure felt these last couple of weeks like Gordon has put up a lot better numbers.
It's probably because he got a touchdown to spite us in week 3.
Malik Washington is looking good. They did promote Cedric Wilson off their practice squad, but honestly, I think it's going to be Jalen Waddle and Darren Waller and Devon Achane primarily in that offense. Will Julian Hill or Malik Washington or maybe even Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, do a little something? Sure, here and there. At least one of them is going to have a game where they pop off a little bit. But no, overall, I think we'll see Jalen Waddle ascend back to his rightful wide receiver 1 role for the Miami Dolphins.
Nice thing for the Dolphins is they play the Panthers next week, so that'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
The second Monday Night Football game was of great interest to me, and that was
for the Falcons.
Yeah, it's true. The Denver Broncos hosted the Cincinnati Bengals, and after a middling start that saw the Bengals go right down on their opening drive and kick a field goal, it was all Denver from there. 28-3 Broncos victory. Dennis, the Bengals started out 2-0, rallying to win it, and the game Burrow was injured, but in the 2 full games without him, they've scored only 13 points. They've been wildly outplayed by both the Vikings and Carson Wentz and the Broncos on Monday night. What did the Bengals do from here?
They need to call Andrew Whitworth and Willie Anderson and Anthony Munoz, anybody that has ever played offensive line for them, no matter how old they are, and get them back in the locker room and out on the field. Hell, on defense, they need to call Vontaze Burfict. Anybody. I mean, the offensive line is so bad that it makes the offense bad. Now, I will say Chase Brown bounced back, 10 carries for 40 yards. So you like to see that. Caught 3 passes for 31. But Chase and Higgins combined for 55 yards on 14 targets. You can't have that when you've got two guys that are that good. But ultimately, it's their offensive line. Their defense can't stop anybody, but the offensive line is so bad and gives up so much pressure. Like I saw somebody posting about, they should go get Russ Wilson now that he's been benched. Russ don't want to play behind that offensive line.
I mean, he may not want to, but he might be better. I was struck that Browning missed badly on a few throws and badly missed some wide open. Just didn't see him and checked it down. Maybe that's a product of panicking a little bit, but they look woeful. And the penalties, they had so many ridiculous penalties, because you were at one point making a comment about, the Jets have all these penalties, and I'm like, that's the same number of penalties the Bengals had in the second quarter alone.
Yeah, Bengals were 11 for 65 on the penalty.
And they had quite a few that got declined because the plays were better than the penalties. So. Meanwhile, for Denver, I did not realize they had not had a 100-yard rusher in Sean Payton's entire tenure. I guess I should have realized that because he's a monster. But Dobbins broke that streak, 16 carries for 101 last night. Harvey also got involved, 14 for 58. They combined for 30 carries for 159 yards. They combined for 5 receptions. Do you like how the backfield is developing for Denver?
I don't know that yesterday's game is
indicative.
Yeah. Because they were so far ahead, I think Harvey getting 14 carries to Dobbins 16. I think in a perfect world, I think you're like, hey, that's great. They're both productive. They're doing that. I just don't know that they're going to that Denver will run the ball that much that it's going to be that productive. I'm a Dobbins fan, and while I like RJ Harvey, it feels like Harvey is kind of settling into the passing back role. He had 5 targets for 4 catches versus Dobbins with only 1 target and 1 catch. And Dobbins, honestly, it's like he wasn't at the 100 yards, and then right at the end he broke that 16-yarder to kind of put him over the 100-yard mark. Now, I think they're both good, serviceable backs. And typically the younger guy is going to have more juice. And I think ultimately that plays out as the season goes on. You're a lot closer to the team and have your finger on the pulse of sort of, what they're thinking. It feels like that they're going to continue to maybe split the carries 60-40. I think Harvey is earning that role. And then they may have Dobbins in on passing downs when they don't expect to throw the ball to the running back. But when they want to have the running back involved in catching the ball, I think they'll have Harvey in there a little more.
They won't ever have Dobbins in there in the pass catching, because the one that played those when they didn't have Harvey was Tyler Beatty. And really, too, the other thing is I would say Jaleel McLaughlin is completely droppable. He's been a healthy scratch the whole season. Unless there's some kind of catastrophic injury, I don't even know if he'll ever be active again.
And given Dobbins' lengthy injury history, it would make sense for Payton to say, we got other guys that can catch the ball and work in the passing game to help maintain.
Well, they like Beatty because he's a good blocker and things too. He was taking some of those roles before he got injured last year anyway. So Dobbins, you're going to have to basically make it on the ground. And that's where I always have a question with Sean Payton. And I have for 3. I always kind of thought he was a decent coach when I watched him with the Saints from afar. But I heard people who are fans and stuff that would complain about the curious things that he does. And now having had him for 3 years, it's not a wonderful experience. There is at least 10 plays a game where I'm like, what the hell did we just call? My friend who texts me throughout the game every time without fail when Denver has 3rd and long, it's like 3rd and 9, and they set up a 1-yard screen pass that has no chance of getting it. It's like, well, if you need 9 yards, you should for sure call the 2-yard offensive play, and it feels like we do that like 5 times a game. Nix was a little better last night at hitting ones down the field. He also Franklin dropped one that should have been a beautiful one down the field, but I'm trying. I had a long back and forth with somebody today who was like, well, the Broncos are a great team and they showed it last night. Let's pump the brakes. We beat the we-ass Titans and we beat the hobbled and reeling Cincinnati Bengals. I would like this is going to be more of a test in week 5 when they go to play Philadelphia before. Last year was more fun watching Denver because I had sub-basement expectations. I thought they were a 4-win team and they won 10 and went to the playoffs. This offseason, with everybody talking about them being a sleeper for the Super Bowl and we're probably going to win the AFC West, has been nightmare fuel through 4 weeks. So, but they have the Eagles and then Jets, Cowboys, Giants. If Denver is worse than 5-3 after that, then I think it's time to start wondering whether they are capable of making the playoffs. But that's I was just happy I didn't, either scream so loud at the television I woke up my wife last night or end up going to sleep depressed. So I'm going to chalk it up as a win for those primetime games. It was a win for us 2 Mondays in a row because your team, Detroit, beat Baltimore the week before, and I thought that was a happy surprise. And then Denver actually, after the way that game started with some ridiculous defensive penalties, allowing them to go right down the field and kick a field goal, and then going 3 and out, I was like, "Yep, it's time to prepare myself to take a walk." But it worked out better.
Like I had told you that I was as bad this week on the money line as I was good last week. Turns out it wasn't. I actually was on the plus side. Through 4 weeks, I'm 41, 22, and 1 on the money line. So,
I mean, that's pretty good considering how crazy it's been.
Yeah. Let's see how long last week's 14 and 2 carry me.
Well, that'll do it for us today. We will be back on Thursday. 14 games in week 5, including Thursday night, Monday night, and there is another London game. But we have 4 teams on the bye, so bye weeks, they are upon us. If you have Chicago, Atlanta, Green Bay, or Pittsburgh, got to make other options because they are coming out of your lineup. But if people need something to occupy their free time between now and then, what can they do?
They can do what I do. Go to your favorite podcast platform. Hit that search bar, type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Tell your friends. Let them tell 2 friends, and they can tell 2 friends, and they can tell 2 friends. Next thing you know, we're up there with the fantasy footballers.
Hopefully they have at least 2 friends. I gotta go through my Rolodex and see if I can keep that up. That'll do it for us today.
Look at you, Rolodex. What an old man.
My back reminds me of that every day. I will see you guys on Thursday with a full injury report that expands beyond the 2 of us and preview all the games. Until then, have a wonderful week.